Gamers, gals, and my non-binary pals, welcome to Windwitch Burn, this absolute amalgamation that I have created. I'm going to give you guys a brief history about Windwitch, a little bit of a card by card. No, I will not physically write out the deck list. I hate you and you can't make me. And of course, some very selectively edited gameplay. So, let's just jump straight into it.
No witches?
Windwitch was an Arc V archetype released in 2017 in the set Raging Tempest, one half of what would be considered Yu-Gi-Oh's most impactful sets of all time, its other half being Maximum Crisis. The Windwitches were a small and powerful synchro engine whose star line allowed you to go to powerful synchro 8 monsters, most notably Crystal Wing's Synchro Dragon, which had additional protection when made with specific Windwitches. Snowbell gave you protection from card effects, and Windwitch Freezebell gave you protection from battle. However, historically, the deck has never seen great competitive success for 3 specific reasons. Number 1, because the core is so small, it heavily relies on seeing exactly Windwitch Ice Spell. Pre-Blazing Vortex, Ice Spell was the deck's only 1-card combo, even now where you could use Glass Spell as a 1-card Synchro 7 or 8. Because of the introduction of Freeze Bell in Blazing Vortex, you have to draw into something like Effect Veiler or hard draw the Snowbell Garnet in order to go into Crystal Wing. Number 2, it has an attribute lock. The Windwitches are extremely xenophobic due to the fact that if you use Ice or Glass Spell, you're locked into summoning wind monsters, which shuts down all sorts of synergistic play with other archetypes and engines. Historically, this deck only saw success due to it being an invoked engine, allowing you to go into Crystal Wing and then immediately after normal summon Alistair to go into invoked Raijin, because Ice Spell doesn't take up your normal summon. And 3, this deck was released alongside Zodiac. What do you want me to do about that shit? However, certain synergies with the deck have allowed for experimentation. One noticeable fact of life is, for some godforsaken reason, the Windwitches have a burn effect, with Ice Bell burning for 500, and of course, Winter Bell, their Synchro 7, burning for level times 200. Yeah, I'm not going to question that. But basically, this weird burn mechanic would ultimately culminate in Windwitch Diamond Bell, which is, in my opinion, one of the coolest cards ever printed, who reads as follows. Who needs 1 tutor plus non-tutor wind monster, and if this card is synchro summoned, you can target 1 Windwitch monster in your graveyard, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half its attack. You can only use this effect of Windwitch Diamond Bell once per turn. Once per turn, if your opponent takes battle or effect damage, you can target 1 card on the field, destroy it. If this card was synchro summoned using only Windwitch monsters as material, you can use this effect twice per turn. This card is basically double Dryden if you're playing terrible burn cards, which I think is absolutely hilarious. Using this synergy of burn cards being pops, the inherent power of Crystal Wing, and a whole lot of selective editing, I'm going to be doing my best to play the only deck I've ever reached in top 200 of Dueling Book Ladder with, when that used to be, a relevant achievement, Windwitch Burn. So, let's get into this terrible card by card. We've got the Windwitch engine of 3 Ice Bell, 3 Glass Bell, 1 Freeze Bell, and 1 Snow Bell. The latter 2 are our garnets that we need to search specifically off of Glass Bell in order to sort of get that ball going for our synchro plays, because these are the only ways we're making our synchros. This archetype sucks. This archetype is not good. We have hand traps of 3 Maxi, 2 Ash Blossom, 2 Effect Veiler, and 1 Nibiru. You should be playing the 3rd Effect Veiler, but I cut it so I can play more burn cards. And of course, our going second equalizers. We got 3 Lava Golem, 2 Lightning Storm, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, and 3 Battle Fader. This sort of takes after an OCG build where they basically played like Windwitch Burn Stall, and you were able to use Battle Fader to sort of fade out battle steps and go into cards like Relinquished Anima in order to suck up an opponent's monster. I wasted UR Dust on this deck. This deck is not good. Don't build this. This is just terrible. And then, of course, for consistency, we're playing 3 Pot of Prosperity. Ideally, I would be playing Pot of Extravagance, but I don't want to spend like $1 million crafting 3 Crystal Wing, 3 of this, 3 of this, 3 of just play like Prosp or like Desires. It realistically doesn't matter. Obviously, our burn cards, 3 Ring of Destruction, which acts as a double pop in this scenario if you're going into the Diamond Bell, 2 Magic Cylinder, because I think this card is very funny to win with, 2 Secret Blast. This card is basically just slightly better Secret Barrel because it's 300 damage for cards on the field, and usually your opponent's like, you know, setting their whole hand anyways, so it's going to be a bit more damage in the long run. 2 Grave by the Hole. I am not saying its English name because I don't want to get, you know, put into a Stevie exposed cancel video, which negates monster effects in the hand or graveyard and burns for 2,000 for some goddamn reason. And 3 Solemn Strike, just because this card is broken. Into the extra deck. No, most of this extra deck you do not need. At most, you only need like one of this, one of this, one of this, and one of this. Like, realistically, that is all you will ever realistically need. But if you have like millions of UR dust you want to put into a terrible archetype, this is it. We've got 1 Windwitch Winterbill, which is a Synchro 7, 2 Wind Pegasus at Ignisters. This is sort of our ladder to get into our Crystal Wing because we need to make a 7 before we can go to the 8. And Wind Pegasus at Ignister is usually just the best one because it acts as protection in the graveyard as well as an MST on the board, which is super neat. 2 Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. This card is absolutely insane even now. It just acts as a once per turn monster negate as well as, you know, being able to kill shit by battle. 2 Windwitch Diamond Bell. 1 Virtual World QB Shenshen. This card is technically makeable. You will never make it. I just needed to fill in slots. It's also a wind, which is like, you know, really funny. 1 Relinquished Anima for the Battle Fader. Remember, special your Lava Golems to the EMZ zones if possible. 1 Crystron Halka-Fibrax, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and the Selene Access Code line. Let's just jump into this travesty of a game. So we have a game against Eldritch, you know, that super awful miserable deck no one wants to play around. So we opened pretty well. We're going to Pot of Prosperity for 3 because you sort of have everything we already need in hand. Again, I don't really like Prosperity because it does have your burn damage. We're going to take the Ice Spell just for the additional follow-up in case our board gets broken. We're going to special Ice Spell and the Glass Spell from deck. Chainlink 1, Glass Spell to search, Chainlink 2, Ice Spell to burn. Be sure you're doing this in order to play around cards like Ash Blossom or Ghost Ogre, if some people are playing that. We're going to add our Windwitch Snowbell, and because we control 2 or more Windwitches, we're going to special summon it from hand for free. We're going to Synchro 7 in order to go into the one, the only Wind Pegasus at Ignister, and then we're going to go Ice Bell and Wind Pegasus in order to go into our Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Then, you know, we're just going to set 2 pass. This is a pretty solid board. Like, it's a board. It technically 3 disruptions plus maxi. Our opponent's gonna go for Pot of Prosperity. I think they're maybe on Tri Brigade. We're gonna let it go because we don't have a response. And then we see the Lava Golem. And then I remember that there's only one deck in this game that plays Lava Golem. And it's confirmed when I see the Conquistador. They're gonna add Psy-Frame Gear Gamma off it for some reason. And it just confirms me that they're playing Eldritch. They're gonna go Cursed Eldland to add the Eldritch, the Golden Lord. Maybe they're gonna be trying to send our Crystal Wing, but they're just gonna pass on setting 3. So they're gonna pass it back to us. We draw another Ice Spell off the top, which is terrible. One of the main problems with this deck is that you never really want to use the second or third Ice Spell because it's kind of impossible to, but they make it pretty easy for us when they use the Paleozoic Dino-Miscus. We're going to Ice Spell, summon the Glass Spell from the deck, Chainlink 1 Glass, Chainlink 2 Ice. We're going to get Mistaked, but that's kind of okay, weirdly enough. They're going to chain the Paleozoic Dino-Miscus Engrave in order to get a body, and we're going to chain Max C, just so we're just like, fuck it, we'll get an additional draw. They're going to chain Cypher Gear Gamma in order to hit our Max C, which I think is honestly like pretty fine in all things considered. I think they really should have saved the Gamma for our Wind Witches, and the chain's going to resolve. They're going to get their specials. Mistake is going to resolve. Ice Spell is going to burn them for 500, and Glass Spell is unfortunately not going to be able to search, but we're able to go into, of course, our Wind Pegasus at Ignister again. And because I don't really care about the Mistake, because there's nothing else we want to search, we're going to pop their back row. But unfortunately, it turned out to be the worst possible scenario, because it ended up being the Conquistador, which I just basically forgot about. They're going to be able to float into the Scarlet Sanguine, and Eldritch Engrave is going to be able to send the Mistake in order to try and resurrect itself, but we can hit him with the Grave by the Hole in order to negate that effect and burn them for a nice fatty 2k. That Eldritch is going to save the Grave. They're going to pay another 800 in order at Conquistador because they already, of course, have the Scarlet Sanguine. They're going to go into, of course, Eldritch the Golden Lord from deck, and they're going to try and run over our Pegasus by battle because it's pretty small. We're going to hit that Eldritch with a Ring of Destruction. Our opponent's life points are looking painfully low. They're going to change their Dino-Miscus to defense mode and set 2. We know for a fact one of those cards is going to be pretty annoying, being the Conquistador, and they're going to IDP our Wind Pegasus, which makes things really, really annoying, but I think we've got this one in the bag. We're going to go Ice Spell into Glass Spell, Chainlink 1 Glass, Chainlink to Ice Spell, burn for a nice fatty 500, and that chain is going to resolve, and we don't really need to even search anything. We're going to be searching our Freeze Spell in order to go into a Synchro 8, because we can, for some godforsaken reason. We can technically do this with the 7, but we're going to do it with the 8 because it's a whole lot funnier. We're going to go to Windwitch, Diamond Bell, and then Diamond Bell is going to target the Glass Spell in our graveyard, burn for half of his attack points, which is 750, which is 100 over 650. I'm honestly debating if I even want to do a pros and cons for this, but I guess we'll just fucking pros and cons. Number 1, Ice Bell is an extremely powerful monster. It being a special from hand that doesn't even require a normal summon, it allows you to go into a 1-card Crystal Wing, which of course is a very, very powerful monster in itself. You can go into Diamond Bell, you could go into like Shen Shen if you really want to, and just super high roll sack with that shit. This deck is so fucking goofy. Ice Bell is a good card. Number 2, Lava Golem is a very, very powerful card. A lot of the equalizers that we're playing, stuff like Lava Golem, Lightning Storm, Feather Duster in the main, are extremely adept. And I think that if you're playing a deck that has an extremely small engine, something like Trickstar or Windwitch, of course, or even Striker, if you really want to high roll on that, you should be playing equalizers like these in order to get those blowout wins. And number 3, burn cards are pretty uninteractive to respond with if you're the opponent. Like, you can't really Solemn Strike a Secret Barrel. You can't really, you know, like Ash Blossom Grave by the Hole. You will get Grave by the Hold on Ash Blossom. I think that's just like really funny that the burn cards are basically just your opponent basically has to use an Omni Negate on them. That shit's hilarious. And the cons. Number 1, this deck is expensive as shit. Like, this deck is like 1 trillion URs for basically like a tier negative 700 deck. Like, this deck is awful. Don't play it. Number 2, at best, you're going to be ending on like 1 Crystal Wing or 1 Diamond Bell, which would have been like passable in 2017, where like Zodiac was basically doing that. But in 2022, where decks are going full Drytron combo, Equip B, they're going like full Tri-Brigade, Adamantipator, like Buster Lock, like that just doesn't cut the cheese. You have to be opening very specifically tons of back row, hand traps, and Ice Spell, which is super, super goofy. And number 3, this deck is bad. Don't play it. It's miserable. Like, I cannot tell you the amount of games I lost just because I got hand trapped once and I couldn't play through it. I cannot tell you the amount of times I basically opened a shit ton of, you know, just like burn cards and couldn't do anything with them. I can't tell you the amount of times I just opened shit like Battle Fader and like nothing else. Like, this deck has so many synergistic flaws that in the TCG could be remedied by playing 60 cards and playing shit like Dragoon and DPE and Fusion Destiny. Unfortunately, we can't really amend in Master Duel because those cards just don't exist yet. Would I recommend you play this deck? If you have like 1,000,000 gems and you're bored, then yeah, sure. Like, that works. If you're like a sane, reasonable human being, don't play Windwitch. It's so bad. I don't know why I spent like $40 building this deck. But if you want just like a super goofy deck to just cheese wins with, play Windwitch. Play Windwitch Burn. It's the funniest shit on earth. Thank you guys for watching. Hit the like, sub, comment, all that shit. For my sanity, of course. That's gonna be it. See ya.